10:55 to go, fourth quarter. Fordham down 4, knocking on the door. Niebrick alone in the backfield in the shotgun. Takes, he's looking to run up the middle. He moves to the right side. He dives for the end zone and in for the score. Touchdown, Fordham. 4 receiver set. Watch for a run play, perhaps. 4 down front for Fordham. 2nd and 4 from the 30-yard line. Man in motion. Abdur Rahman takes it right up the middle. He runs, breaks it free, loses the ball, and Fordham is on it. 2 receivers wide to the right. Carlton Kuntz right next to Niebrick in the shotgun. Niebrick takes, gives up the middle. Kuntz, he rushes to the far sideline. Brought down, first down, Fordham. The Rams in victory formation. Niebrick under center, takes the knee, and this one is over. Clock to 15, Fordham 27, Villanova 24. And we welcome you to the first edition of the 2013 season of Monday Night Quarterback here on WFUVSports.org. Mike Watts being joined here in a moment by Coach Joe Moorhead, but first we turn to Nick Legerfo. Fordham coming off a 27-24 win over the number 8 ranked team in all of FCS, the Villanova Wildcats. And Nick, certainly an opportunity here for the Rams to maybe put their name out nationally, and they took advantage. They defined the moment.
It was a great opportunity for the Rams. We knew coming into the season they were improved from last year. We didn't know exactly how much improved they were, and I think this week they showed us that they should be in contention for the playoffs for sure.
Absolutely, and as we turn to Coach Joe Moorhead for the first time here this season on Monday Night Quarterback, Coach, you seemed a little bit emotional almost with Matt Morrow down on the sideline at midfield after the game. You played quarterback for this program. You come back as a head coach. Do you think about how important this is for maybe the program to get a win over a team like that on your home field?
I was just so excited for our kids. You know, in a 2-year span, they've come a long way, and for us to be able to come out on our second game of the season and defeat a top 10 team at home. You know, they had worked so hard in practice, put in great preparation, and to come out and give the effort they did and execute the way they did on offense, defense, and special teams. I was just excited for them and happy for them.
And Coach, you guys played the Wildcats last year, a disappointing loss. You were actually winning the game at halftime. What has been the biggest difference between last year and this year when you played them?
You know, last year we went into halftime up by a touchdown, and then came out in the second half and didn't play too well, and they beat us, and we didn't take advantage of some of the opportunities. Some plays that needed to be made that we didn't make. And, this year going into halftime we were down a little bit and challenged the guys to not have a repeat of last year and come out in the second half and to make the plays that we didn't make last year. And I thought the kids came out and really stepped up in particularly all 3 phases and did a great job.
We'll have a couple players on later inside the huddle who really stepped up in this ball game. 2 guys that we're going to be having on the show. Stephen Hodge, the linebacker, a junior, finished with 9 tackles, a sack, a fumble recovery. And Michael Niebrick, who again had another outstanding performance after being named Offensive Player Week in the Patriot League Week 1. How much can you say about what these 2 guys did to really move Fordham along and give them a chance to win this game?
Well, Michael continues to do a good job in the pass game and running the football. He's a dual threat guy who can, help move the ball and score points with his feet and with his arm, and he's continued to do that while minimizing negative plays. So if he can continue to grow, with each game and help us, move the ball and score touchdowns while minimizing mistakes, I think he'll continue to be successful. And Stephen was all over the place in the game. Did a great job from his same linebacker position and a defensive effort that was really stellar. And we're very proud of both those guys, and they certainly did a great job to help us win this game.
And continuing with this conversation of impact players, one of the guys that really stepped up in this game for you guys on the offensive side of the ball, to Bucky Jones, after having a somewhat modest performance in week 1, really leads the team in receiving this week. What did you think led to that leap in improvement?
To Bucky, didn't have a ton of catches against URI. He did have some, they were going to him and he was open, and we had some issues with protection and things like that, so he didn't get an opportunity to make the plays that Sam and Brian did in the first game. But just based on our game plan and what Villanova was presenting us defensively, it gave Buck an opportunity to make some plays and show his athleticism and playmaking ability. So I think that's one of the great things about our offense, that we have a lot of different playmakers that can do things for us at the receiver position, tight end, running back, quarterback. So it's tough to focus on one guy, and we just have to spread the wealth and make sure that all the guys that are capable of helping us score points are seeing the ball.
Absolutely, and looking at maybe highlight plays, certainly a fair number this week. Let's take a look at a few that caught our eye to maybe gauge a little bit of a reaction from you.
Taking the snap is Nieberg. He drops back. He's looking right. He's going to run up the 20.
You see right
to the
there,
15.
we had I believe it was a third down play. And we had a
into the end zone for the score at the pile
play called against man-to-man coverage, and Michael took a read at it, and it wasn't there, and he just hitched up in the pocket and ran. And that's one of the things about him, that the play doesn't always necessarily have to be perfect or work the way it's drawn up. That he can make a play with his feet, and if his first read or second read or third read's not there, he's been instructed to tuck it and go, and I think he did a great job with that, scoring touchdown.
And let's take a look at another here.
Here's the give. Kuntz up the middle, up to the goal line, and in for the score. Touchdown.
That was
Fordham.
just one of our tackle wrap plays, and the line did a great job getting the push up front. And Carlton, has a nose for the end zone when we get down in there tight. We like to sometimes take the read element out of it, where we're blocking the give key, and just give him the ball and allow him to get behind the offensive line and find the end zone, which he has a great nose for finding the end zone.
Certainly a couple of good offensive plays. Let's take a look at one of the defensive plays here from this ball game.
Javon White on the near hash. Abdur Rahman on the far hash. Long and
this was a key part of the game. The outcome was hanging in the balance. We had just regained the lead, and Lorenzo Smith comes down and makes a tremendous play on special teams, and the fumble gets recovered, and that really helped us seal the win. And we always discuss that special teams is a third of the game, and we want to win the hidden yardage battle, positively impact the game, and either score or set up a score. And I think Coach Slusky with the special teams and all the guys have really bought into that thought process, and that was a huge play in the game.
Absolutely. And Coach, there were some highlight plays certainly, but there were some that maybe weren't so much. Nick and I were looking at a few of the trick plays you ran. We enjoyed them quite a bit, and we didn't quite see them go the way maybe they were drawn up. Going back to those, do you maybe question the play call there at all, or do you really think that those were good within the construct of the game?
No, I think they were fine. I mean, that's always the nature of a special player trick play, that it looks good when it works and it looks bad when it doesn't. So we took two shots at a couple trick plays, and the first one, we end up with an interception, and the second one was a tackle for loss. So that's if you're gonna try to make those types of plays, you're gonna have to deal with some adversity when they go bad. So we talked to the kids that we were going into that game to call it aggressively and play to win, and not play to play it safe. So I'd make the same calls again, and we'll make them going forward.
And just a question: how many times a week do you practice those type of plays, or are those just like kind of gag fun plays?
No, we'll get for both of those plays, we probably got 2 to 3 looks at it during the course of the week in practice.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly you guys were trying to look for some of those trick plays, but let's take a look at some of those turnovers in the second half. 3 turnovers caused by your defense or your special teams, really down the stretch, all within 10 minutes to go in regulation. They really helped ice the game. It allowed you guys to get the ball on a few offensive possessions. Go back to that, first off, on offense, maybe not being able to get the first downs you would have liked, but on defense, being able to get the big hits, the strips that you needed to maybe keep the Villanova offense off the field.
Yeah, our defense played tremendous all night, and in particular in the second half. And they got us the ball back offensively in very good field position, and unfortunately we weren't able to capitalize, or it could have been a bigger margin of victory. But at the end of the day, turnover margin is something that we stress as a team, that we don't want our offense to give it up. And unfortunately, we had a couple interceptions and one that returned for a touchdown, which we don't want to have happen. But the defense, if they can continue to produce turnovers and get us the ball in good field position and we capitalize on it, I think that'll to be to our benefit moving forward.
And one of the guys on the defensive side that was just an animal, making plays left and right, Victor DeFusco, couldn't be here today, but how big was his impact in this game, and did you expect that at all in the week of practice?
Victor had a very good week of practice, and he's a guy that really kind of stepped up when his number was called. We talk about next man in, where if the person you back up can't play, that the next man in is going to do it as good or better of a job. And Victor was named Patriot League Defensive Player of the Week, and like you said, numerous tackles for loss, forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, and really spearheaded a tremendous defensive effort. So we can't say enough good things about Victor and how he played in this game.
We've talked a little bit about some of the skill players that have played a big role in this one, but there was a very big defensive and offensive front for the Villanova Wildcats, and it seemed like your defensive line didn't get pushed back too much. The offensive line was doing the pushing. In terms of winning in the trenches, how much does that mean to see your team do that?
It's really what we focus on both sides of the ball, and we challenged our guys to be able to do two things: to run the ball and stop the run. And we had more rushing yards Villanova, and I think after the URI game, where defensively we had a little bit of trouble stopping the run. I think that's something that our defensive staff and our players take great pride in, and to be able to really limit a prolific offensive unit like Villanova and hold them the way they did rushing the ball. I think that that bodes well for the rest of the season.
Now, there were some important injuries on the defensive side of the ball that Jake Rodriguez, being one of them, didn't really play in this game. What can we expect from him this week?
Jake's banged up a little bit. He got in for a couple series, so he's getting healthier. And we had a Sunday practice, and it was light. And he went through that. And we had an off day today, so we'll come out tomorrow and gauge his health. And that's the benefit of having two capable players at a position. So I think Jake should be ready to go for this weekend.
We'll get a full injury report from you in just a little bit when we talk about the Temple game, when we look ahead. But finally, looking at this week, the national polls come out, of course, Monday, and it seems like they're just good for fodder at this point in time. But we talked at the lead of the broadcast here about national recognition. Well, you receive votes in both the Sports Network poll and the FCS coaches poll. What does that mean for your team going forward at this point in time? Does it really matter?
No. Obviously it would be nice to be ranked in the top 25. I think we were, a couple spots out from each poll to crack in the top 25. But, at the end of the day, it's game 2, and we notched a win against a top 25 opponent, and it's one game. So, I'll worry about the rankings we'll worry about the rankings at the, the end of the last game. So hopefully we could just continue to take it one game at a time, and, the poll stuff will take care of itself, once we continue to handle business.
Coach, thank you very much. We'll get back to you here later on in the show when we look ahead, but right now we talk X's and O's with Fordham defensive coordinator David Blackwell. Time to talk X's and O's with Fordham defensive coordinator David Blackwell. Coach, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely glad to have you back. And Coach, looking back at a 27-24 Fordham win, really that second half, your defense played at a different level. Was that maybe the best half of football you've seen the first 2 games?
Oh, most definitely. We came out of the locker room and had a little lull there to start the second half. We gave up a big run to start the second half on a bust, and then after that really got it together and played well down the stretch.
A critical goal line stand for your defense right before halftime. What did you tell your guys before that drive?
Just to keep playing and keep playing hard, that it was going to be a 60-minute game. They were going to make some plays. They were a good football team, but we were a good team too, and we just had to match them with plays.
Absolutely, and there were a couple of big plays that we're going to go ahead and take a look at, hopefully get your thoughts on it. We begin with this first highlight here, a fumble.
3rd down and 2, and we've got a corner blitz on here, and Brett beats the offensive lineman underneath, and blindside hit. You hope you get a fumble out there, and had a great opportunity to get it out, got it out, and Nick Marino with the recovery.
Yeah, now in terms of that fumble, how big was that in terms of changing the momentum, getting a big turnover there on a sack that you didn't have any sacks week 1 to get one there? How important was that?
Oh, I think it was a big momentum turn. Anytime you can change field position and get a turnover, especially on their side of the field, and set our offense up with field position going in, I think it can be a huge momentum swing.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at this second highlight here that comes on a little bit later in the game, Coach.
This is really the last drive of the game here, and we're in a safety blitz here. Vic DeFusco plays behind the blitz like he's supposed to, gets a hand on the ball, gets it knocked out, and then Stephen Hodge with obviously a big recovery there at the end of the game.
And you mentioned Victor DeFusco having a huge game in this one. You saw him in practice. Did you think that he was going to have as big a game as he did?
He had an outstanding week of practice. He flew around. He's had a great camp, and he's somebody we've been really excited about, all camp and earning opportunities to play. And then with Jake dinged up and injured, and he came in and did it, really had just an awesome game. I mean, he had several calls, fumbles, fumble recovery. He had, 3 tackles for loss, I believe. What we talk about all the time about next guy in, and, next man in. And, you have an injury and a guy comes in and plays the way you expect him to play.
And absolutely, you look at maybe the guys who maybe Fordham fans didn't know going into this season all that well, whether it's Victor DeFusco at middle linebacker, whether it's Stephen Hodge at outside linebacker, or whether it's Levon Williams who stepped in maybe because of an injury there and has played exceptionally well. Those 3 guys especially stepped in What are your thoughts on what they've been able to do this season?
Well, I mean, like you said, there's several of them, and we talk openly about creating depth, creating competition. Levon and Denard have been in a huge battle for that position, and Levon, we're very comfortable with either one of them playing. And then Levon's played well here early in the season. Victor, as you mentioned, is another guy who's really done well, and we've got it, all across our defensive line. We're a young football team, really, and when you look at us last Saturday, we didn't start a single senior on defense against Villanova, and so we've got some good young players on the defense. We're trying to develop competition and create competition at every position, and hopefully by doing that, it makes everyone better.
And one of the guys that was injured week 1, Ian Williams, was back for the Villanova game. How big was it to have his presence in the secondary? And how pleased are you overall with the way the secondary played?
Overall, played really well. We minimized a lot of the mistakes we had made the first week, and we improved drastically from week 1 to week 2, which you want to see. Ian, emotionally coming back brings a big boost to our football team because he's a very excitable, high-energy guy. He plays with a lot of passion. He loves to play the game, and he's an outstanding player. So, to get him back was definitely a boost for us and definitely for our defense.
And Coach, last year when we had you on, you talked a little bit about busts and maybe having busts in coverage or maybe a gap fit that didn't quite work out. In terms of this first game against Rhode Island, 277 yards rushing,
Mm-hmm.
I would assume there were a fair number. Week 2, though, a lot fewer big plays. Did it translate?
Well, most definitely. The first week, there were a combination of things. We played, 3 quarters of pretty good defense. The first quarter, the second quarter, and the fourth quarter. In the third quarter, we gave up a lot of yards on the ground. We had guys pressing a little bit, not fitting where they were supposed to, and allowed some explosive plays to get out. This past week, for the most part, we kept, their running game bottled up. They had the one long run, which is something we've got to learn to overcome and not to allow. The first play of the second half, a 57-yard run that, was we were in a zone blitz and didn't fit it properly and had a missed tackle in the backfield. I think Nick Marino missed him in the backfield. But we've got to have somebody to play behind that, and we just misfit it. And when it happens, we've got to learn that the next guy's got to get it down. We can't let it go like that one got out and went.
All right, Coach, moving ahead to next week, a big FBS opponent in Temple. What are the biggest challenges you see on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, I mean, they're a big physical offensive line, and so the first challenge is going to be to stop their run game. They like to pound the football. They're very big up front. They're going to run the power. They're going to run the stretch play, and they like to double team a lot on the down linemen. And so being a little bit undersized up front, being able to hold a point and hold an edge against those big bodies, and they're going to come downhill on us.
Absolutely. And Coach, finally, you've had several FBS stops. So in terms of maybe what you're able to do, knowing what FBS teams like to do, having that many scholarship players before, does it affect your preparation at all, having been at that level and playing in FCS now?
Well, I think understanding what they're going through. Their coaches are scared. They don't like these games. Coaches at FBS schools don't like these games because no matter how hard they preach and no matter how hard they tell their players that they've got a good football team coming in there, they don't believe them. And so you'll have a team that hopefully will underestimate us, and a coaching staff that will do everything they can to get those guys ready to go. And, having been on that side of it, it's a challenge when you have a 1AA program coming into your place or an FCS program coming into your place, especially one, that is up and coming like us that people don't know a whole lot about yet. And so, they've got a challenge to prepare for us just from a mental standpoint. And then, obviously, the scholarships, they've got 25 more scholarships than we have. It'll make a difference in depth. You'll see our starters will probably be, comparable in a lot of areas. And but what happens is those teams get wore down in the second half a lot of times in those games.
Coach, well, we can't thank you enough for stopping by. Defensive coordinator David Blackwell, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
It's time to go inside the huddle with a pair of Fordham juniors, one on the offensive side of the ball, one on the defensive side of the ball. We've got quarterback Michael Niebrick and linebacker Stephen Hodge. Guys, thanks for rolling in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Much appreciated having you guys by. And let's begin with you, Mike. And I want to get really how both of you guys got to Rose Hill, because I think you both have maybe interesting stories behind that. Mike, you came from UConn here a year ago, but Fordham head coach Joe Moorhead was at UConn. Talk a little bit about maybe having Coach Moorhead want you to maybe make a visit to Rose Hill.
Yeah, obviously Coach Moorhead was the main reason that I came here. He was the one that recruited me at UConn. He was a big reason I went there. So when everything kind of turned south with Coach Edsel leaving and then Coach Moorhead leaving, it was kind of a tough time there at UConn. So once I asked for my release, Coach Moorhead was the first one I called, and now we're here.
Well, and certainly a good start to the season for you. And meanwhile, for Steven, your brother Chris was actually here from 2001 to 2003 playing with the football squad, and actually has a piece of hardware to maybe walk away with, a Patriot League championship. Was he involved at all in maybe trying to get you to come here?
Yeah, obviously it's a big part, a big influence in my life. I saw him ringing the bell, all Vince Lombardi, the tradition, so I want to come here. Pretty awesome.
Absolutely. And for you, let's start with you a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. 9 tackles in this most recent game for you, career high. Tied it with last week against Rhode Island. For you, getting more playing time, what does it mean to you to be able to maybe get a few more opportunities and take advantage of them?
It's a big deal for me. I'm like a walk-on. I came here as a receiver, so it's a pretty big change from linebacker to receiver, or from receiver to linebacker. But, Blackwell gave me a chance. He had faith in me. He didn't play too well last game. So it's pretty awesome. Had a sack. Pretty good.
Absolutely. It was a good game for you. And we've got a couple of highlights here. Let's take a look at this first one. Maybe get your thoughts as we go through this first highlight.
1:16 to go in the third quarter. Fordham down 4. Back to throw. Rushing up the middle.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, this was a third down. Obviously, a real crucial part of the game. During our meeting after the game, we basically said that play won us the game. So it was a third down pass play. Simple concept. Obviously, I had to escape the pocket a little bit. And I saw Danny out in the flats there and just kind of tried to get it to him as best I could. As I was falling, I actually didn't see the catch, but once we saw it on film, I couldn't believe that he actually snagged it with one hand like that. So it was pretty incredible play by Danny.
And so you threw that to him with complete intention. It was a perfect throw on your part.
Yeah, I just tried to make a nice little highlight for him. Obviously,
well,
it'll look good on his highlight reel at the end of the year. So that was what was important there.
Well, there's a highlight for Dan Light. Let's take a look at a highlight for you that I think you'll be looking back at here at the end of the year. Bring me through this play here going to the line of scrimmage.
So we knew we were going to run the football. Obviously, all week during practice, we were really stressing on the goal line, running the football out of empty. So I actually forgot to send Jorge in motion here in the slot towards the boundary. So it actually ended up working out for us. He ended up getting a piece of the guy that I had to wiggle into the end zone to get. So it was a big play in the game. Obviously, it gave us the lead, and then obviously the defensive side really held the game down after we scored that. So it was a big play. I believe it was a 17-play drive. So it was a pretty cool feeling to get.
Absolutely, and it seemed like you ran a lot more in this game. It seemed like you were more comfortable running, and you got a lot of yards when you did run. So in terms of going from the URI game into the Villanova game, was there maybe more of an intention for you to try and run the football?
Yeah, we actually game planned all week for me to get a little bit more carries. Just with the way the Villanova plays their defense and the success that I had last year on them, we just kind of wanted to incorporate that a little bit more into the game plan. And then, throwing the football, obviously we didn't get the shots downfield that we got last week. I was a little bit off with those. So basically I did whatever I had to do to help our team win, and it ended up, that my legs were what was needed.
Absolutely. Now let's take a look at a couple highlights here for our junior linebacker, Stephen Hodge. Stephen, let's take a look first at play here early in the ball game, end of the first half.
Yeah, this is Victor Strip right here. He came down the line. It was an awesome play by him. Our coach always say, next man in. He's playing for Jake Rodriguez. He's pretty banged up, but it was an awesome strip, perfect form. Then Al Washington scooped it up. It was a big deal because we could have been down 28-17 going to half, so it was a huge play for us.
Absolutely, and it seemed like the entire defense flowed over. Was that a play we maybe saw a couple times during the game, but did you see that coming during the week?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, coaches had that all down pat pretty much. It was a sprint out pass. The Sam linebacker, George Dawson, my backup, who played awesome too, he forced it, and Victor came in and made the play. It was a big deal. Big play.
Absolutely. Yeah, at the end of the first half. We've got another highlight here that we're hoping you can dissect for us as we take a look. Another play, this one much later in the game near the end of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, we had Cobra on here, which is a corner blitz. So we had Ian coming from the sideline, and then Levon with a huge hit, and Victor with another hustle play, got the fumbles. Big momentum swing.
Now, were you guys looking to try and force these fumbles? Was it something in practice maybe you saw, or is it something that you're just trying to maybe get a big hit and try and make something happen?
We practice like causing turnovers like every day in practice. But last year we had like 4 turnovers against them, so we knew that they could put the ball on the ground, and we got them to do it. So it was a big play, big plays. We had 5 turnovers, I think, right?
Yeah, 5 turnovers in the game.
It's pretty big.
Yeah. Big game for you guys defensively.
Yeah,
now,
awesome.
Both of you guys have some experience playing in big games, and Mike, for you, playing at UConn, coming from Lake Braddock High School in Virginia. Is that maybe the biggest game you've played in your career so far? Or is there something else that measures up to it?
Obviously, my junior year in high school, we played in the state championship game. That was obviously a huge game for us. But in my college career, that was definitely, facing the number 8 team in the country, that was definitely the biggest game I've ever played in.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, you played in a national championship game before as well, a prep national championship game. Is this in the same stratosphere for you?
I think this was much more intense. I mean, I played a lot more in this game, and this was like a much larger scale, so it was a much more enjoyed win, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, and both of you guys have played against FBS teams before. For you, it was at UConn. Do you maybe understand a little bit more about that conference and a little more about that level because of your experience there, and maybe that could help you against Temple?
Yeah, obviously I played in the Big East. I played in 5 games over there, so going to Temple, pro stadium, it's a big deal for this program and this team. So hopefully I can use the experience that I had in those 5 games at UConn to kind of help the guys here, and going to Temple and try and come out with a win there.
And Stephen, you were a little bit unlucky a year ago, didn't get to play at UC, but you played in a couple of big games your freshman campaign against FBS opponents. Do you maybe look back to those experiences at all, or at this point do you feel like you're maybe in a different role or a different kind of player at this point?
I mean, Coach Blackwell says like they're just guys, like they're just like us. They're just a few inches taller, a little bit faster, but I think we'll be ready come Temple. I'm not too scared.
Absolutely shouldn't be. Is certainly after the Villanova game, you guys with a lot of momentum now. Last question for you guys. I don't know how much you're maybe out to hit the quarterback, but in open field drills, would you be able to catch Mike Niebrick?
No doubt.
Would you be able to run him down?
Yeah, definitely run him down. He's pretty quick, but I think I could get him.
Yeah, he can keep telling himself that. Whatever helps them get 5 turnovers in and throughout the course of a game, that's fine with me.
Fair enough, guys. Thanks for letting me inside the huddle.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's time to take a look ahead to the Temple game this Saturday afternoon, the game on WFUV and WFUVsports.org. So hopefully you're tuning in for that one. Kickoff at 1, the one-on-one pregame report at 12:50. And as we turn to Coach Joe Moorhead here, certainly a very staunch opponent, an FBS school. You've coached at the FBS level. Is there anything that you can take away from maybe your experience in the FBS that can help this team this week?
Well, you just look at Temple, and they're an FBS program in the American Athletic Conference. The winner of their conference gets an automatic bid to the BCS playoffs, and they're big, they're fast, they're strong, they're physical, they're well coached. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge, and we're going to have a great week of preparation in order to go up there and compete.
And Coach, in early film study so far of Temple, what really stands out to you about this opponent this week?
Offensively, their offensive line is very big, and they move well, they run block well. And protect the passer. Connor Riley has had a couple very good games passing the ball. They haven't necessarily put up a ton of points, but they've got some yardage and they've moved the ball well. Kenny Harper, a solid running back, good caster receivers to get the ball to. So it'll certainly be a challenge for our defense, to be able to defend the run and pass, which they do equally well. Defensively, they have a very big, stout front four that's very, very, very good at stopping the run. Tyler Matakavich, linebacker, on the back end, and then Abdul Smith at safety. They do a good job mixing up their zones and their blitz coverages, and it's gonna be quite a challenge.
Certainly, and looking at their schedule so far, 0-2 on the season, but a loss to Notre Dame in South Bend by 22. That 22-13 loss to Houston at the Link last weekend. When you look at maybe game film, is one maybe a little bit more helpful to you in terms of looking at formations and what you can do offensively, or defensively based on what maybe those two teams run?
Yeah, no, they're both very helpful. You know, Notre Dame and Houston both run 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, so it's very helpful in that regard relative to our preparation. And then defensively, we're a mix. We run 4 down and 3 down, so they're 2 very good games to have in the breakdown, and so got a lot of preparation ahead, but they're very useful in our preparation.
And Coach, playing an FBS school really isn't a new concept for Fordham. Played Cincinnati last year, UConn the year before. How much of that experience do you think is going to help Fordham in this game?
I think it'll be great for our kids who have been there before. It won't be much of a shock going into a big stadium in front of a large crowd and playing up against an opponent from the FBS level. So I think our juniors and seniors who have done it, it'll be a little bit more of a normal environment for them. Some of our younger guys, our freshmen and sophomores, that we have those guys in the 2 deep and they're playing. It'll be a little bit of an adjustment to them, but once you get between the lines and the game starts going, you just concentrate on what's happening in the game and really can't worry about too many of the outside distractions.
Looking ahead here to Fordham against Temple on Saturday, which will again be on WFUV 90.7 FM, one-on-one pregame report, 12:50 in the game to follow around 1 o'clock. Coach, Jack Coffey Field maybe fits about 7, possibly 8,000. Last weekend, Temple was playing in front of 27,000 at a 65,000 seat stadium in Philadelphia against Houston. How do you prepare your team, maybe not even as much for the size of players, the athleticism of players, but just the crowd atmosphere and maybe having 4 times as many people, more eyes on you than maybe you're used to?
Yeah, we'll get some crowd noise in here and work on that element of it so the kids are prepared if there's anything we need to do from a snap count standpoint or communication standpoint. But at the end of the day, once you're on the field, you just have to worry about the other 11 that are on the other side of the ball and can't worry about the people there in the stands or the environment or things like that. So like we talked about earlier, most of our kids have been through this, so it shouldn't be too much of a surprise to them.
And now there were some key injuries from this game last week against Villanova. One of the most important ones, I think, is Brian Wetzel. Any status on him?
Brian's day-to-day. He got banged up with concussion, so he's got to go through the protocol to that to get cleared to play. And it looks like things are moving ahead favorably. So he's got some time to heal up here. So it'll be a couple days until we figure out whether or not he's going to be able to play or not.
And Coach, you already mentioned Jake Rodriguez earlier on when Nick was asking you. Any other players that right now were a little too banged up to play this most recent game against Villanova, but you expect to return this weekend?
Eli Tenuto will still be a game day-to-day evaluation. He had an ankle and tried to come out in pregame warm-ups and go for Villanova, but wasn't able to do it. So our training staff's doing a good job with him. He's getting treatments, and we'll come out tomorrow for practice and see how he does, and hopefully he'll be ready to go for Saturday.
And you already mentioned one of the biggest concerns is the lack of size on the offensive line, or for Temple's offensive line. They have a lot of bigger players than we have on the defensive side. How are you looking to combat that this week?
Yeah, they have. I believe all 5 of their guys are 300-pounders, and we are a little bit limited in our size up front, but I trust Coach Blackwell and the staff to put together a good game plan, and whatever we need to do defensively, whether it's stay in a 4-man rush or create some pressure looks with more, I'm confident that we'll put ourselves and our kids in a good position to be successful for the game.
And Coach, finally taking a look back to last season, your team played against Cincinnati, went about a half mano-a-mano with them. Second half maybe got run out a little bit in front of a huge crowd. It was on UC's campus, a very exciting game. And this year you're playing a team within their conference. In terms of maybe comparing the 2 games, is there any real comparisons that you could make between playing a Temple against maybe a Cincinnati last year?
I think it'll be very similar. Cincinnati's been a perennial bowl team. Temple had a down year a little bit last year, but they had been to bowls, for years prior to that. So at the end of the day, like I said, you're playing up against an FBS opponent with 85 scholarships, and what kind of happened to us last year against Cincinnati is we got worn down in the second half. And if you kind of look at some of the FCS versus FBS games, you even look at the Villanova-Boston College game, it was close for a half, and then they got worn down, and I think that's where the number differential in terms of scholarship begins to take effect. So hopefully we're able to overcome that in the game.
Coach, well, we're definitely looking forward to it. Hope to see you down in Philadelphia. Hope to see a lot of Ram fans down there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, guys.
So that'll do it for this edition of Monday Night Quarterback, our first of the season, but it won't be our last. Make sure to stop by WFUVsports.org again next Monday for a recap of the Temple game and a look forward to the Liberty Cup. That's all coming up on WFUVSports.org. Again, the game at 1 o'clock against Temple. The one-on-one pregame report comes on 90.7 FM, WFUVSports.org at 12:50. So, for our guests, Joe Moorhead, the Fordham football head coach, defensive coordinator, David Blackwell. For Fordham players who came on and joined us this week, Michael Niebrick and Stephen Hodge. For our entire WFUV crew here on site. For Nick LaJurfo and myself, Mike Watts, our executive sports producer, Bob Aarons, we thank you for joining us here tonight. Monday Night Quarterback is a production of WFUV Sports.